Modern analysts say, if you have to choose between suicide and homicide, choose homicide. Of course, they're speaking metaphorically, but what they're saying is, choose life. Choose your life. Generally, my clients love hearing this. There's something about it that really resonates for them. I think they hear this as an invitation to save themselves. I use this idea as a guide when I'm practicing therapy with depressed clients. We start where the client is, alone, withdrawn, internally focused. This is where we have to begin, in the place of despair and utter aloneness, stillness. This is the place of suicide. Dance movement therapists use movement and body-focused work as their primary way of practicing therapy. We don't privilege words. Rather, we invite our clients to rely on the wisdom and memory that's stored in their bodies and to let this guide access to their emotions. As soon as one begins to move, one begins to make the transition to aliveness. Maxine Sheets Johnstone, in her keynote address at the 2009 American Dance Therapy Association conference, said, "Movement awakens us. It brings our attention to a sensory experience that's neglected when we reside in our thoughts." When we move with our clients, we help them to find that spark of health, that place in them that's alive and that wants to stay alive. Usually, we start with just a little bit of movement. We move together as I invite my client into a relationship with me. Little by little, I will coax him out. This is not unlike the moment in the story of the Little Prince when the prince meets a fox and the fox asks the prince to tame him. When the prince asks how this is to be done, the fox says, "You must be very patient." When we move with our clients, several things happen at once. But one of the first things that happens is the client experiences himself as seen and accepted. At the same time, he also experiences himself as no longer alone. Rabbi Arthur Green wrote that self-revelation requires an encounter between self and other. The self needs an other to whom to be revealed. As dance movement therapists, we are the ones to whom our clients will be revealed. This is a profoundly moving experience for both of us. I witness a client moving, and I write. You bend your head to the floor. You bring your hands to your face. I feel the weight, the heaviness. You stand, hands to eyes, and sway heavily and drop to the floor. You release into the floor. The weight is lifted. I hear your voice. Movement leads to memories, emotions that are held in the body. It's this material, that's this old material that's stored in the body that brings people to therapy in the first place. A person comes to therapy filled with confused feelings, and the origins of those feelings can be discovered in movement. We invite a relationship between the conscious and the unconscious. The work begins as soon as the movement begins, as soon as we offer the possibility for integration of movement, sensation, and emotion. I have a client in my practice who was in psychoanalysis for 17 years. For the last 3 months of her analysis, she lay on the couch and she never said one word. After a while, she told her analyst that she didn't think she was done with therapy, but she just didn't have a single thing left to say. So her analyst sent her to me. When we started working together, she was severely depressed and she could barely move because somehow it wasn't allowed for her to experience any kind of pleasure. But she's an artist, and she started to move with images of origami, of herself as flat, and she would fold herself into lovely and complex shapes, and then she'd unfold herself again, each time becoming more and more three-dimensional. Eventually, she was able to experience joy in the movement. Movement gives us a sense of agency, a sense of our aliveness. It's our primary way that we experience ourselves as competent and effective in the world. Movement lets us know we can do things, we can change things, we can get things done. I recall working with a group of patients on an inpatient unit in a psychiatric hospital. And this was a group of patients who had not moved together before. So we started with a physical warm-up. Move your neck, move your shoulders, get your arms moving, and eventually we're stepping side to side. And this leads to us stepping out all around the room. And pretty quickly an image comes up of stepping over obstacles. One of the patients pretends to take his coat off and spread it on the floor to help us walk across a particularly nasty obstacle. And next we find a big hole, so we fill it with sand and with rocks. And another one of the patients volunteers to be the first one to walk across, to make sure that it's safe for the rest of us. Finally, we encounter this huge boulder in our path. And we decide that if we work all together, we'll be able to lift this boulder and move it out of our way. It was so important for these patients to have these experiences, that is, to be able to help and support each other. In fact, this is a really great way to use movement with people who are suffering from depression. That is, to invite them to help each other through the movement. Early in my work with compulsive eaters, pretty much all of whom suffered from depression or struggled with it in some way, I developed this way of working that I call bridging. It's based on a modern analytic concept that has to do with inviting silent people into a group. So we work in pairs, and in each pair there's a mover and a talker. The talker tells the mover about an issue or a problem or something that she's struggling with. And then the mover goes into the movement space and just improvises on what the talker has told her. So she uses movement to just explore the issue, and the talker watches. And when the mover is finished, she comes out and she tells the talker what she's discovered in the movement. This is a powerful experience, to witness someone else do your work for you instead of having to do it alone. And the movers are so generous, going to a depth that they'd have great difficulty doing for themselves, but they have no problem doing this for someone else. A depressed person moves for another, and in that, she discovers compassion for herself. Because, of course, there's always some aspect of the talker's story that she can relate to. A mover moves for another in the presence of the other, and discovers that a pretty good way to love herself is to care about someone else. Because it's that connection to another human being. It's that sense of understanding, of really knowing that you make a difference in someone else's life. That's so powerful. Marion Chase, who was the first president of the American Dance Therapy Association, knew that dance is communication and fulfills a basic human need. Without communication, there's no relationship. It's our relationships with others that actually inspire compassion in us, for others and for ourselves. When a person is too depressed to talk, we offer the possibility of relationship anyway, in movement. We invite expression through the body. We invite the client to follow their impulses and to use movement as a way to explore themselves. We, through the movement, help them to see who they are and where they've been. And then they find the freedom to decide who they want to be and where they want to go from here. We invite them to choose life.